Hello, warriors. Welcome to the You Movement. I am B. Today's video might be a little challenging, so I'm just putting that out there. Watch at your own discretion. Take what resonates, leave the rest behind. As you know, I did a 3-day meditation retreat with Craig Holiday. It was a journey through the 7 chakras, so I was, of course, very interested in that. And as per expected, stuff came up because when you do a lot of spiritual work, as I've translated it, it's like going into the muck to unfuck. So you go and you're feeling and allowing things to begin to flow and shift and move that were previously locked in, clogged up, and no movement. And the two energies that really came up that I found challenging were hatred and fear. And it's not really surprising to me. Those energies are very much in the collective at the present moment in time as well. And as I've figured out, in some capacity, I'm plugged in to what's happening energetically, not just with me, but with many others. And in light of everything that's happening in the world right now, there most definitely is a lot of hatred and a lot of fear coming up. So I wanted to look at those specifically through the lens of reactionary abuse. So let's get into some core wounds through the lens of neurodivergence. Okay, so we're looking at two issues and we're putting a filter across and or a lens across, and we're saying, okay, let's look at this through the perspective of what we know about reactionary abuse, what we've learned through this process of pulling ourselves up out of narcissistic families, partnerships, and as well, let's look at that through the lens of autism, because that was one of the truths that came into my level of awareness through my awakening, is that I am autistic. I've always been autistic, of course. In the 70s, they didn't know autism, and they certainly didn't know what autism looked like through the female, when autism became kind of known, its first interpretations were like Rain Man or something like that, and I'm no Rain Man. I can't help you with things like that. My skill sets are very different, but within the umbrella that is autism or ADD or ADHD or Asperger's, it's all kind of one spectrum. It's one umbrella. And within that, there are specific qualifiers that you may or may not have. No one autistic person is the same as the next autistic person. It's multiple different aspects that create a unique being. And within those aspects, they're considered to be, certain sensitivities or certain difficulties, certain challenges within multiple frameworks. So it gets, when you start to study into autism, it gets very, very unique. It's like being a person. You are very unique. You have your own set of DNA, which makes you you and gives you this eye color and this hair color and this, and then you have the way you're raised, which gives you these traits and those experiences. And so as same too with autism, it's going to show up and manifest in your life in different ways. And so I suppose I would be considered a high functioning autistic woman. I hate that term because high functioning has in no way, shape, or form meant I've been without extreme challenges in my life from the time that I was a child. Really a huge amount to do with like the social realm and social interactions, very challenging. So while I may be high functioning in certain regards while I'm masking, I am not high functioning in other regards. And I'm still figuring it out at the age of 53 so that I can survive and function in this world that's currently in a state of collapse. And I'm supposed to be, stepping up into, I don't know, because God hasn't told me. So that's just a little bit of kind of background, which most of you probably know already. One of the qualifiers of autism or neurodivergency is this justice sensitivity. And, this to be qualified as a disorder, because you've got a really insane high justice sensitivity, and as children, that plays out as this isn't fair. This isn't fair. This isn't nice. This is, and so we get born, okay, from a spiritual perspective, we get born as starseeds. Which is, to me, one and the same thing as being neurodivergent. It's just two different camps looking at it from two different ways and calling it two different things. No different than one group of people call it Allah, another group of people call it God, and another group of people call it the Creator. It's all the same thing. So starseed, neurodivergent, light worker, it's really all the same thing. Or volunteer, there's another terminology Loris Cannon uses. So our souls decided to come down and incarnate on this planet at this time because, the divine creator sent out a message and said, listen, there's some shit going down on that planet, and we need some of these volunteers to go down and break this up and change it, fix it, correct it, course correction, right? And so I joke, we were all warriors up there in the cosmos, drunk off our tits on cosmic mead, and we're like, yeah, man, I'll go down to Earth and be a volunteer and be a light worker and be a neurodivergent and be an autistic, and I'll get born into the most vile family structures with abuse and alcoholism and, all this ick, all this gunk. Sure, I'll get planted like a seed in a pile of hot, steamy shit. Okay? And then what happened is we woke up, our hangover had dissipated, and we're in this little infant body, and we're like, I don't remember who the hell I am. I don't remember what I'm here for. I'm going to just kind of fall asleep. Kind of. Okay? Not fully, kind of fall asleep. And when I say not fully, because our skills, okay, our gifts were still active. And one of our skills or gifts was to be able to see the truth. Okay, see the truth. From the time that you were really, really young, you could see things that were wrong. That was part of your programming. That was part of the mission. You need to be able to go down to Earth and see what's wrong with Earth. How are you going to fix it if you can't see what's wrong with it? So we became truth tellers when we were very young, and that didn't work very well for us. Because we were shining a light. So here comes the light worker component. We were shining a light on the bullshit. And I did that routinely. When I was adopted, I would, as a young 3-year-old, call out the abuse. I would see the abuse, I would see the patterns, and I would call it out. And as a 3-year-old, who was very strong-willed, that didn't go very well for me. So it didn't. And what do I mean by call it out? Call out mean. So, for example, when I was adopted, I had, shoulder length hair and I looked like a little girl. After I was adopted, within a week or so, my mother, I guess, decided she didn't want to have to deal with little girl hair and made it, and sorry, this is hard for me. Okay, so we used to have this really nasty, ratty, rusty, giant pair of kitchen scissors. And she would sit me down at the table and she would proceed in cutting all of my hair like that vile, disgusting bowl cut that was popular in the 70s. And this was very upsetting to me. So this triggered 2 of my autistic gifts, as well as from a spiritual perspective, many of my fundamental human rights. And while, okay, maybe some might argue a 3-year-old doesn't have a choice over the way that they wear their hair, when you deprive a 3-year-old or other children how they get to wear their hair, how they dress, or what they do, what you're doing is you're debilitating and you're wounding the root chakra, which is the fundamental right to be, self-express, okay? A form of self-expression. And so I was not allowed to do that. My hair got cut in a manner that was horrible, absolutely horrible. No little girl wants to look like a little boy, okay? And an ugly one at that, No little girl wants to endure that. And when I'd see those kitchen scissors and I would be told to sit down and all my hair was cut off and I would get upset. I would react because I would see something that in me, my soul level knew, something in my soul level knew that this was not fair. This was not kind, and this was mean. I could see this was mean. And she took great joy in doing mean things to me that I would call out, and I have vivid memories of being a 3-year-old going, "You're mean! Why are you so mean?" And then because I would react, right, as a normal human child, especially one with heightened sensitivities, neurodivergent, who can see what is just, what is fair, what is kind in your cells, I would react. I would react and I would have a full-blown temper tantrum, like absolutely full-blown, on my hands and knees, like screaming because the amount of rage that was inside of my little body at the cruelty. And I'm not just talking about haircuts, okay? I'm also talking about all the horrible things that she said to me over the years. My mother did not have a maternal bone in her body, like none whatsoever. As far as I'm concerned, she adopted children, and I can't go too far into this, but she adopted children as like an accessory. Lots of people use children as a means to, boost their image. I can name a good few in Hollywood that have, carry or collect children as a means to go, look at me, aren't I just such a wonderful person now, right? Like, oh, I need to course correct my image. Okay, let's adopt a child and see how that goes. One example of that is Joan Crawford. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Mummy Dearest. I recommend watching it if you grew up with a narcissistic mother. because it was one of the first interpretations, and it's a true movie, okay? It's based upon the book written by Joan Crawford's adoptive daughter. And it's horrific. You'll see, narcissism at its finest. And many other people have called out Joan Crawford for being a horrible human, a really horrible human. Of course, I didn't know her, but that movie was like, it was like seeing my childhood is what it was. As like, this can't, like, why, very disturbing movie, but I do highly recommend that you watch it, only if you've got a malignant narcissist as a mother. You will get it. Otherwise, people would just, it's too shocking to believe that mothers purposefully are trying to hurt their children, There's a lot I can't go into. There's a whole area I can't go into online. It's too sensitive for me. So I'm sticking to like stories that I have vivid memory of and have always had vivid memory of. I'm not going into the repressed memories at this time in my life, but she would say and do things that were purposefully cruel, and then I would react. And in my reaction, I became the script of the problem, right? So this is a manipulation or a tactic that narcissistic individuals use, and it's not just with children, it's as adults as well. Scenarios are concocted. You react from a place, especially as a neurodivergent person, as a place from this isn't fair, this isn't right, I have a sense of justice that's built into my DNA, and I know that this is wrong. And then you react to it, and your reaction causes consequences that come back and hurt you more. So instead of going, hey, wait a second, this is wrong, you could do it better. And hey, wait a second, this is which, autistic people are always trying to make things better, right? We see with our pattern recognition, we recognize unjust acts, we see inefficiencies, we see ways that things could be better. And so we react from a place of, it doesn't need to be like this. Like, this isn't how it's supposed to be. And then when we react, our very reaction is used against us. So as a 3-year-old, my reactions became punishable by corporal punishment, physical punishment, as well as other layers. So my punishment for reacting for something cruel, so something cruel would happen, I would react, and then there would be consequence. And consequence 1 would have been being raged at. Consequence 2 would have been being corporal punishment, physically hit, pants down, welts on my ass. Punishment 3 would have been being put into isolation and ignored for a substantial period of time. So I do hazard a guess that if she ever wanted me time, the easiest way for that was to create a scenario that I would react to, then I would be in trouble, then she could push me into the bedroom, then I could be ignored, and then she could do whatever she wanted. And then level, what we're at, 3, 4 would be humiliation at the dinner table. 4, 5 would be getting my father involved for another layer of punishment. And then layer 6 would be humiliation and ridicule for the rest of my life. Like, there was never any reprieve. There was never any okay, you've served your time and now you're a free woman to walk the earth again. No, throughout my life, I was continuously reminded of my temper tantrums when I was a 3-year-old. I was continuously reminded of like all the mistakes that I made as a teenager. I was continually reminded of all the bad decisions and bad responses and bad that I did. And in recognition of it now, you know, what it was determined bad or wrong was a normal, healthy response to me. Okay, so I can also remember when I was in my bedroom in isolation for long periods of time, it would be like I'm trying to plead my case. So I would write letters to my mother and shove them under the door, telling her how much I hated her behavior and how much I hated her. Which, of course, was just twisted right back around. She kept those letters, by the way. She kept those letters as like rewards or like, I mean, for my whole life. She kept those letters. They were like stored away in her desk. I don't know if she'd like sit over them and like, very strange indeed. Like, what is it when people collect things from people they've hurt? Yeah, ew. Okay, so she collected these letters, my hate mail that I would send out. I hate you. You're so mean. You're so mean. And the more I fought against what was mean, what was wrong, what was unjust, the more it was twisted and turned back onto me, and I was called a hateful child. You are so hateful. You are so full of hate. And so I internalized this energy of hatefulness and shoved it into shadow because I'm like, I can't let people know I have hate in me. I can't let people know that like this is wrong when I see things. But asking an autistic person to not see immorality, unethical, unfair, cruel systems is like asking me not to breathe. Like, if I could have controlled it fully and shut that off, I would have, right? And that in a part was what masking looks like, what addictions looks like, what people pleasing looks like, what fawning looks like, is going, I can't call out the truth. It's silencing oneself and swallowing down all of the truth that is in fact hateful, but it's not me that's full of hatefulness. It is me that is recognizing through the power of my discernment, through the genetic DNA that has been awarded to me as an autistic woman, what is unjust. What is unjust? And because of that, when you shove this all down, right, it's like disabling my entire ability to discern, because I'm constantly being gaslit and being told the things that I see that are wrong are in fact right. And I'm the one that's wrong. And the things that I see that are unjust, immoral, cruel, unkind, bullying, this, that, these things that I see, and I can't help but see them, no more than I can help but see the tree that's outside. It's there in plain sight for me. It is wrong for me to see them. Why are you seeing them? And so this cycle of reactionary abuse looks like seeing a truth, calling out a truth, reacting because you're calling the truth out gets rejected and gaslit, which causes almost a volcanic eruption of like feeling insane, because if you're saying the sky is blue, which it is, and somebody is saying it is purple, and you're like, no, it's not. And they're like, it's purple. And you're like, no, it's not. It's the truth. You start reacting. And in your reacting, it's a feeding frenzy. They get off on that because then you look like the crazy person. You look like you're out of control. You look like you're having problems. And then comes in the labeling that you are problematic, that you have disciplinary problems, that you are out of control, that you have, ADD, ADHD. And I really, truly wonder, when it comes to the world of diagnosing neurodivergent children, how many of them are actually just responding to seeing the truth instead, and then reacting because somebody is gaslighting them. So, poor children on the spectrum have this, storyline, this labeling system that says, they need to be medicated because they're problematic. Maybe they're acting problematic because there's a problem that they are seeing and that they are recognizing and that they are understanding at a soul level. How's that? In a world where we have established that trauma is a generational wound that's gotten passed down and passed down and passed down, and a neurodivergent child is born into a family with toxicity, and then a neurodivergent child calls out said toxicity and then gets gaslight because, no, that's not what's happening here. That's not reality. That's not what's really going on, which would make anyone go kind of insane. It certainly meant me go totally nuts as a 3-year-old on the floor, pounding my fists and kicking, because I had so much angst and rage and anger inside of me because the sky was blue and everybody was calling it purple. And then I get labeled because the reactionary abuse minimizes me, shrinks me, controls me, and puts me into like this lockbox of a complex post-traumatic stress disorder response, right? So how many neurodivergence people, the crossover with complex PTSD and neurodivergency is like massive, like Venn diagram massive, like almost completely one on top of each other. But because the society as a whole doesn't even have complex post-traumatic stress disorder in the DSM, they're ignoring completely and utterly the truth, and instead using even more extreme diagnoses to explain away people's responses, their natural responses to abuse, to cruelty, to injustice. Like, the gaslighting in this world is insane. Like, it's insane. And you just need to look on the macro right now, what's happening with Epstein's files, and the fact that like nobody else has been arrested. So a lot of people right now are very angry, understandably so, and are reacting understandably so. And responding on like a cellular level to say something's off, something's really, really off. But the more that we get gaslit, okay, the more our reactions get bigger, then the more that people can turn around and say, look, it's you. You're the problem. Why haven't you gotten over this already? Can we not just move on? Isn't somebody saying those words as of late? And this type of cycle has kept us completely and utterly enslaved in a system that is meant to collapse. And whether that be within individual families and you saying, okay, I see you. I see the sky is blue. I see that you are mean and I am out of here. I am going to cut cords energetically. I am going to clear my energetic field. I am going to put myself and my nervous system and my body and my emotional body and my mental body and my spiritual body somewhere safe. Because we go, if you want to use me as an example, from these core wounds as neurodivergent kids, stuck in households with severe cruelty that has been gaslit and caused a reactionary response that has like a snowball effect, gone from, you're a problem child to you're an addicted person to you're a disordered person to you're a, need to be medicated person to you're not a believable person, so that the cruelty can all continue because nobody ever addressed the problem. Nobody ever addressed the problem. And so I think many people like me were in situations that were intolerable for our makeup, our genetic makeup as a neurodivergent being, a being of light that came down with the sole purpose of exposing this toxicity. And then we went out into society and it replicated itself in society over and over again with friends that were, bullies or took advantage of you and manipulated you, and then partners, romantic partnerships of getting into like the next layer of like mind fuckery, and the reactionary abuse continued. I've talked about some of the examples of the reactionary abuse I endured in my marriage. And, he confessed to it and admitted to it that, yeah, I 100% was using reactionary abuse, because the more unstable I was, the more confused I was, the more disassociated I was, the more cognitive dissonance I was, the more chemically imbalanced between cortisol constantly firing and your adrenals constantly firing with little breadcrumbs of dopamine being swooped in, the easier I was to control, the more zombified I became, So reactionary abuse is a system. It's like being concussed, which I've also had recently. It's like being concussed, or, boxers, how they suffer brain damage because they're constantly being punched in the head. And so they get like addled. So reactionary abuse is a way to keep you addled energetically. It's like being punched in the face over and over and over again until you're so like just downtrodden, sick, because your body's been firing like it's an internal addiction of chemicals that has been manipulated and used against you. Criminally speaking, if somebody was putting rat poison into your food, that would be a criminal offense. But because somebody is like poisoning your mind through psychological warfare, that's just starting to be a criminal offense. I know in Canada, they just passed a law saying coercive control is now punishable. It's now a crime, right? And that's just opening the door a little bit beyond, because it is a crime. It is a crime of mass proportion, using these techniques to keep people like in a state of complete and utter collapse. Traumatized people are easier to control. is what it is. Traumatized and sick people are consumed with their sickness. They don't have the energy, they don't have the brain power, they don't have whatever is required to fight against anymore. And like, it had gotten to the point in my own marriage where like I would come home and retreat to bed. There was nowhere else for me to go. I was overweight, I was sick, I was like losing my brain power, I was, brain fog, failing Alzheimer's test, could barely walk upstairs, was just, as far as I am concerned, okay, it was slow death. It was slow death. And do I feel hatred for the experience of slow death? Oh, damn straight I do. Oh, damn straight I do. Do I feel hatred for the experiences I had as a child, which was psychological warfare? Yeah. Yep. Damn straight I do. And who do I forgive? I forgive me. I forgive me for believing that I was the problem. I forgive me for believing that I was doing something wrong, that I was fundamentally wrong, that my very existence was wrong, because I had this capacity that God gave me to see injustices. I was wrong. I internalized that as me having flaws, instead of recognizing the reality that in debilitating my ability to discern right from wrong, it kept me going from one traumatizing situation to another traumatizing situation to another traumatizing. So the person that I forgive is me, is my inner child, for feeling with the only words she knew at the time, I hate you. Because I hated the behaviors that were coming towards me. But I didn't have the capacity to like differentiate the person from the behaviors in a 3-year-old's mindset. I did have the capacity to identify hateful, hurtful, cruel behavior. I did have the capacity and the discernment to call out mean. And it wasn't the calling out of the mean that was wrong. Even though I was indoctrinated to believe that, because every time I called out the mean, every time I blew the whistle, I went through very specific lines of torturous punishment for a child. And so then you internalize the programming that me calling out mean is hateful, and I shouldn't do that, and I should just get over it, and I should just move on, and I should just forgive. Do you know who is telling people to just move on, just forgive, live your life, get over it? Abusers. Abusers are saying that, okay? And as we have just determined, there is a very large network of abusers that go from the very tippy top, okay? So through our governmental agencies, through our religious institutions, through our education systems, we have been hearing the indoctrination that is, don't speak. Don't air your dirty laundry in public. Move on. It's wrong of you to feel hateful. It's wrong of you to feel anger. It's wrong of you to express rage. So more and more, that means we've been putting tape over top of our mouths and repressing down, swallowing down truth. Is truth hateful? Or is truth sometimes so disturbing, so vile, that we can't even comprehend it. We cannot even comprehend it. And so because we've learned a program of policing ourselves, we silence ourselves in fear. If I speak, there will be consequences. The practice that is systematic reactionary abuse is no different than beating somebody into submission, energetically speaking. And now we're in this fluctuating energy where some vile truths are being exposed, and that may be in your own household. That may be in your relationship with your partner. That may be in your workplace. And that may be in the bigger world as a whole. Like vile, disgusting, hateful truth is being exposed, and we need to see it, and we need to re-engage with our capacity of discernment so that I can see very clearly who is danger and who is not, so this period of isolation I have been placed in, I know is divine protection without question. And I am beyond grateful that I am being divinely protected. I have been divinely picked up and moved by the grace of God. I have had people expelled out of my life by the grace of God. I have had myself physically put into a location where I can begin to detox the programming that has policed myself from standing up, from speaking out, from calling out horrific things. And as I do, I process through the fear. Okay, so fear is another police program that we internalize that says, if I feel this feeling, I'm going to lose control. And if I lose control, somebody is going to judge me. Somebody is going to label me. Somebody is going to institutionalize me. Somebody is going to put me on pharmaceuticals. Somebody is going to abuse me. And the peeling away of all these policing programs that we have internalized means allowing ourselves in these safe containers that we've been placed in, our boxes of protection that says, I'm actually safe now to feel this feeling. I'm actually safe in this moment, in this location, to scream. Yesterday I was doing a meditation and I was screaming like almost all the way through it, just releasing some of this angst that was inside of me. Maybe it's to release tears. Maybe it's to release anxiety. Maybe it's to release panic. But you see, a lot of our fear is a fear about feeling our feelings. And so we have to, it's safe. It's safe. It's safe. It's safe. It's safe. And re-practice over and over and over and over again. It is safe to be the person you were born to be. Be the neurodivergent individual with your ability to see injustice. It is not a sensitivity that is a disorder. It is a necessary component for helping humanity move out of toxicity. It is what we were here to do. From day one, we were put on this planet to see it. To see it. That sensitivity is a gift. That sensitivity has been what has been weaponized and used against us but it itself is not a disorder. It is more ordered and more necessary now in the world than ever. So we need to learn how to react again without fear of abuse, without the consequence that has been trained into us, no different than the baby elephant that has a chain that, like, it can't move. We're not baby elephants anymore. We are adult elephants. And if we move our foot, that chain is going to break. That chain is going to break. Our ability to perceive is not a sensitivity that is in any way, shape, or form a negative thing in a completely sick, disordered, and unjust world. Your other sensitivities that you have been gifted to you may have been weaponized against you. Now is a really good time to sit in the muck, to unfuck the programming, the misbeliefs of all of the ways that you have had your beautiful, sensitive gifts used against you through reactionary abuse. What were the consequences of feeling your feelings? If they were in any way, shape, or form negative or hurtful, that was manipulation. Your feelings are more valid now than ever. You have a right to feel everything that you feel. It is an indicator where something is off. Okay? When you walk into a room and it feels ick, leave. No, you're not being too sensitive. No, you're not being too much. No, you're not being, give them another chance and I should give them the benefit of the doubt. See, all these little programs that are put in there to mangle the mind. No. When you feel something, whether there's proof for it or not in the 3D world, trust your feelings. Reorient yourself with your feelings. There is nothing wrong with your feelings. None of them. You've been told that they're wrong. Why? They're not wrong. I am not a hateful person, but I can discern hateful activities. And when I call it out, that's not a hateful act. That is putting a spotlight on behaviors that are unethical, unjust, immoral, and cruel. I see mean. I was born this way. God did not make a mistake. I am not a mistake. I am not broken. I am not disordered because I have the capacity to see mean, to see and call out mean. This is what the world needs. The world needs neurodivergence. It needs people to have greater sensitivities. It needs people to call out. It needs people that are like PDA. I don't want to be told what to do because I recognize what I'm being told what to do is unjust. It's unfair. I support everybody going through the process of going into the muck to unfuck all of the programming, all of the misbeliefs, all of the untruths that have kept us chained. Let's break our own chains. They start with the mind. That's where they start, is breaking those chains to free ourselves from all of the ways that we have been manipulated into silence, into tolerating the intolerable. I will not tolerate any of those things. I see them all very clearly now. And I've done videos, if you need help identifying some of these manipulations and tactics that narcissistic individuals use, please go into the narcissist playlist and watch those videos, because I've given you, hey, this is an example of this. This is an example of this. This is, this is what gaslighting looks like. This is what cognitive dissonance is like. This is, go and do your research. If not me, go and watch every single video ever made by Dr. Romani. She is a genius when it comes to she is like a narcissist whisperer. So go and watch her videos, read her book. It's not you. Because it's not you. There's nothing wrong with us. There is nothing wrong with us. Whew, got heated today. To leave it on a little bit of a lighter note, I wanted to read something that I found in my mother's house in 2020. And it was an old school book of my brother's. And he was 3 years older than me, is 3 years older than me. So when I was adopted at the age of 3, he would have been 6. Okay, so this was written when he was 6 or 7, somewhere around that age. I don't know, I'm just going by the writing. He calls it Sisters. Sisters are sometimes nice and sometimes mean. And when they're real sick, they're pale green. When Mummy gets mad and gives her a spank, I run upstairs and cry tears that are dank. And when she hugs, she really bugs. It feels so squishy, just like slugs. When sisters are bad, I feel so sad. Other times, I get real mad. When Mum goes out, I want to shout. Then I'm glad Stacy's about. Up to the cottage when it seems so far, I'm glad she's with me in the car. Sisters are sometimes nice and sometimes mean, and when they're sick, they are pale green. This hit hard. This hit hard because this was one of the closest things I ever got to acknowledgement or vindication in my life. And he himself admitted the abuse in the last few years. And I never understood it from his perspective because he wasn't receiving the same abuse that I was. But that's not to say that it didn't fuck him up just as bad, because I can only imagine what it's like to witness, to be a witness to somebody else's abuse and not be able to do anything. As I said, he was 6 or 7. He didn't have the capacity to get in front and protect me. And shit like that causes psychological damage. So whether you were abused or you witnessed abuse, which in fact is a form of psychological abuse and emotional abuse, it is time for all of us to know safety in the world again. And that's going to mean letting everything that is unsafe, that is corrupt, that is just absolutely evil crumble. And in the crumbling, we might feel incredible fear. I feel fear. Every single day, I feel fear. Not just my fear, because as I look around and keep reorienting my body to understand I am safe. Nobody is coming to hit me. Nobody is coming to hurt me. And I have to keep saying that over and over and over and over again. I am safe in this moment. I am divinely protected. I am secure in my isolation. My isolation isn't punishment. It is protection. That the divine will not let anyone come and hurt me. And I pray daily that all of the other victims of abuse, and I mean all victims of all abuses, okay, we're talking millions of people around the world, basically humanity, what's left of humanity. I am praying daily for all of humanity that vindication comes, that safety comes, that justice comes. And when I say justice, I mean the Most High. I don't trust man's court to provide justice. It's been proven too many times that it lets people away and it re-victimizes the victims. So I am praying, this is my prayer here today, that all victims of all forms of abuse and trauma, all the children right now that are being traumatized in war-torn countries, all the atrocities that are happening in the world today, get freed, escape, find safety, find, health, find wellness, find divine justice, find their voice, find their power, have God and all of the angels intercede on our behalf. So we as a society can know peace, real peace. And that can't come without real safety, real love, real compassion. Support each other where we can. These are challenging times. We cannot hide vibes only our way through what we are going through. These energies are intense. Identities collapse through dark night of the soul, and each one that goes down into the depths of the hellish realms to arise anew is a new spiritual warrior that's fighting on our behalf, on the collective's behalf. People are waking up all over the world, in every location, in political structures, in police structures, within armies, within human trafficking networks. And I was shown this years ago. Imagine being the guy that has going through your own spiritual awakening and you're a guard protecting people from being able to escape, and you're going through your own dark night of the soul. Oh, I have a feeling there's going to be some unlocked doors. We have to have faith that all of us have been divinely placed exactly where we are needed in this world right now. Many of us feel disempowered because we don't have the capacity. I'm not the Department of Justice. I can't go and do anything, but I can hope that there are people within the Department of Justice. I can hope that there are people everywhere, starseeds everywhere, neurodivergence everywhere, light workers everywhere, that are awakening to their divine power and being called into mission. And their mission is to blow the whistle, is to expose the truth, is to hand over the keys, is to unlock the doors, is to like stand in their personal power and say, I see the injustice, and I am going to be a warrior of light and do something about it. I have so much prayer, and that's what we can all do right now. If you find that you're immobile, going in circles, trying to figure out what your life's mission is and what you're supposed to do next, pray. Pray. Ask for divine intervention. That's the number one rule on the angelic kingdom, is they cannot intercede unless they are asked. So call in all help to help you transmute through your pains, which will ripple out and have a positive effect on the world. You know, those that are doing the healing work, it ripples down through our children to protect our children. If you are being called to do something that you're scared out of your mind to do or say, pray for divine protection. If you need help and you need community so that you feel less alone in this insane process of the collapse and rebuild that is currently underway, please join the Spiritual Warrior Support Group Zoom meetings. Please book a one-on-one with me if you need to discuss some of the challenges that you're facing. I can hold a container for you to be able to release the emotions that you were told are wrong. There is no wrong. If you want to come in and do an hour with me and just scream and F and blind and tell me about how somebody was a stupid bitch, that's okay. I'll listen. If you need to release it, let's release it so that we can transmute through it and get skills so that we can be each in our own individual power with all the wonderful gifts that God granted us. But being who we truly are is a terrifying process. Allowing ourselves to step fully in our divinity is a terrifying process because it's been manipulated and weaponized against you, and it was never you. Your reactions weren't wrong. Your reactions were healthy discernment to what was wrong. Well, that is my messages today from Spirit, and I'm sending you all my absolute love. Peace in